Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vida podcast, where we help educate military veterans and their spouses on opportunities in Web3. Our plan is to host a series of industry leaders, many of whom are veterans or spouses themselves, so that we can learn about their journey down the crypto rabbit hole while understanding opportunities for transitioning veterans in the industry. I'm Chris Perkins, president of Coin Funds. I'm a combat Marine veteran who spent 15 years on Wall Street before transitioning into the crypto space. And before we begin, I would like to thank our sponsor, Luca, who's dedicated their time and resources to make this podcast possible. For our 31st episode, we will be interviewing German Air Force veteran and now CEO and co-founder of One Earth Rising, Jan Roessner.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. I think you're the first German veteran that we've had on. So welcome. We just got over the NATO summit here in the States. We love our German allies. So tell us about your background. Tell us about your service. Look forward to hearing about it.
Sure. Yeah. So my service, obviously, in Germany. I started actually in the army in 1999, quite a while ago, and was then back in the days after boot camp joined the German French Brigade and was a truck driver and driving trucks like hazmat, ammunition, and fuel, and got deployed directly also to the beautiful city of Sarajevo for S4 back in the days. And then, did my duty there, did my first tour, and learned quite a lot about leadership or the lack of it, and really inspired me to become an officer and extend my duty here. And so, because I also slept right next to the helipad, I definitely wanted to see if I can join the strike forces basically out of the air, with the thought in the beginning to do this as a helicopter pilot for the army or as a jet pilot. So I'm Top Gun generation. So as you probably know, I mean, our generations are very much influenced by that movie. So I definitely try to first become a jet pilot, become the next Maverick, the German Maverick, if you so will. And so luckily, I mean, I don't know if this is the same system in the US, but in Germany, if you sign up to become an officer, and before you have to obviously go through the screening, then officer school, etc. And before you do, you actually submit 3 choices or options that you go through. So if number 1 doesn't work, you get number 2. If number 2 doesn't work, you get number 3. And if that all doesn't work, then you might get the boot probably. So my first choice was Air Force jet pilot. Second choice was actually Army helicopter pilot. And the third choice was if I can't fly, I wanted to become a Navy SEAL. So completely the opposite, and then just go diving. And so there was the second choice stuck. So I got carved out, or I got just dropped out because there's tested a dust allergy, and that can then interfere with something apparently with 100% oxygen that you breathe in the jet. And also I was pretty tall, so for the majority of the jets that we had, I wouldn't be a fit. So in the end, I got helicopter, and I was very, very happy about that.
I've got a ton of helicopter pilot friends. If you'd gotten fixed income, you'd always be pointing at your watch and using your hands when you talk. That's what they do, right?
That's what we do, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So then you became a helicopter pilot. Tell us about your service. What did you do?
So actually, the funny thing is that the training, because the helicopter branch in the Air Force, and I know I said Army before, but for some reason they mixed it up and then they sent me to the Air Force, and I became actually a pilot in the Air Force. So what had happened then was that the Air Force helicopter branch, is so small that they actually have an exchange program with the U.S. Army, and I was sent then to Alabama, to Fort Rucker, the U.S. Army Aviation School of Excellence. And so here I spent then 1 year learning how to fly a helicopter, learning it under IFR conditions, instrument conditions, then transitioning from the Bell Jet Ranger to the OH-58, the same setup, just with no seats and just a tarp and no doors, right? So the military version is very light, and then trained basic combat skills and then night vision. So that was a whole year. And then after that, went through, well, before that, obviously officer school, but then after the training, you go back to Germany and then you get your what we call Europeanization. It's
Mhm.
basically learning everything from scratch again, just based on European flight rules, and you get your type rating on, in my case, the Bell UH-1D, which, my oldest helicopter that I ever flown in my book was from 1976, if you believe it. It's
Yeah, the
crazy.
Huey.
The Yui, yes, best helicopter ever built. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Black Hawk. Unfortunately, my country
Yeah.
never had it, so I would have loved to fly a Black Hawk. But the Yui is a great piece of technology. And I always joke, it doesn't matter what happens, an EMP goes off, the U will always fly. It only has like a little hamster in the back that will spin its wheel. Nothing else can actually penetrate this, and so it's always the last helicopter that comes to the rescue for in any movie and in real life. So it's a great piece of technology. A little old for many things because of just like the versions that we had. Single engine, two blades was not really made for a lot of stuff. So even Kosovo, where I had three tours, I was then limited to a little amount, a very small amount of people that I can transport in the summertime. But anyway, so three tours, and then very much towards the end of my tenure, I actually had the opportunity to join a new program where we leased for the first time real proper like drones, reconnaissance drones, in this case from the Israeli Air Force, and we brought them into the German Air Force. That was like a predator-sized drone. It's the Heron drone over there, and so we brought these, and it was one of the fastest turnarounds that I've ever seen of a government making the decision that you want to bring a new weapon system into the forces and then actually doing it and deploying the troops. There was a turnaround of 6 months. That
Wow.
was insane. So it was like a wandering circus where they recruited pilots, existing pilots from all the different units. So we were a nice little bunch of 38 first movers, which were jet pilots, transporter pilots, and helicopter pilots. You can imagine how these conversations went down in like some of the deployments. And then we went to training 3 months in Tel Aviv, one of the best times of my life.
Wow.
And then followed by 5 tours in Afghanistan, establishing the base there in Mother Sharif,
Wow.
and supporting our troops wherever we could with convoy reconnaissance and a lot of like special forces deployment there, as you can
Wow. So
imagine.
5 tours in Afghanistan, and you said three in Kosovo.
Yeah, 3 in Kosovo, 5 in Afghanistan, 1 in Bosnia.
Wow, that's a lot of tours, man.
Yeah, we go a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
So specifically when we are pilots, we go between like
Mhm.
4 to 5 months, and the other tours are 6 to 12. So that's more equal to what you guys do.
Yeah.
But so that was the first one, was the longer one. But the pilot ones, the flying ones, were between 4 to 5 months. So still a long time in
Long
all, but it's it's less than 5 years basically. So the 5 tours in Afghanistan, they were between 2010 and 2013. So in that
Yeah.
kind of like spacing, and that was mainly because I was responsible to write the rules of engagement for our units
Wow.
there, so it required me also to travel around a bit. Went to Kandahar, Helmand province, Bagram, to meet all the other units really that have already established drone operations there, and
Yeah.
so it was quite interesting. It's really, really interesting. The
Wow.
flying was horrible, meaning like you sit in a little container and just press buttons, compared to flying in real. But the all the missions that we flew were very rewarding.
Yeah, but I always like thought that Afghanistan had a very beautiful landscape. I imagine it was pretty nice to fly, like unlike
Yeah.
what we experienced in like the city of Ramadi in Iraq. But well, what did you take away from those incredible experiences? What did you learn as a person? How did it develop you?
I have to say that I think the most important takeaway I have from my time in the military is the ability to handle stress
Mm,
and be in stressful situations that, for the lack of a better comparison, break many people, I think, that
yeah,
have not been exposed to stressful situations. And I built up a quite well established resilience against the impact of stress. And it's funny, and I think that is very true for many, or at least I know many veterans that have that, and I'm sure it's true for you as well. I actually get more calmer the more stressful it becomes. So we kind of like fall back into what we've learned, and so the routines kick in, and we
Yeah.
just like analyze the situation, determine very quickly if life or death is under, if there's a life or death situation, which normally it isn't in our
Yeah.
normal nowadays work, which is great, right? So it's like, okay, nobody's gonna die, just chill the f out, right?
Yeah.
So we'll handle it. It's no problem. It's all gonna be solved. And that really is something amazing to take away. Now, even seeing this, I entered my quote unquote business world fairly late. I spent
Yeah.
13 years in the military. So now seeing this left and right, it is something which I value very much and I'm very grateful for. And in hindsight, it really, yeah, is something I would never would like to miss. And seeing like some of my peers freaking out over the little things, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very happy that I don't have
Let
that.
me let
That's
me
one of my
build off.
major.
Yeah, let me build off of that a little bit. So I totally hear you on that. And the other thing that I've noticed veterans do very well is that they make very good decisions. They're able to make a decision with imperfect information. What we were always taught was a good, um, any decision executed well is better than no decision at all. And I think
100%.
that's probably building off of what you were saying around handling stress. I think it probably translates, based on your German veteran experience as well.
Oh, 100%. I couldn't agree more, Chris. This is something which, taught me now also being in business, where two things are very true for me. One, I feel that, I mean, nothing, I have an amazing team. They're not veterans and they execute and they are great in what they do. Incredible.
Yeah.
I've seen that I work very well with veterans.
Yeah.
So I see where now possible we'll fill positions with veterans just because we have a very similar thinking and I
Yeah.
know how to guide my team in the proper way. And now my existing team, as I said, not veterans, but have been working with me long enough to know everybody has a voice, never hold anything back, because only with all the information, good or bad, we can make or take a proper decision, right? And so it's on me to make that decision, and I can only do it if I have all the
Yeah.
information available. And then we go with it, right? And we go after the goal. And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this is something where the execution, there's no fuss, no frills. It's just, okay, this is the goal. This is the end zone where we need to be. Okay, let's get there, right? Let's
Yeah.
get there together and put everything that happens on the way there. It's going to be brought up and it's going to be handled with.
Yeah. All those tours and all that incredible experience, are there any particular stories or vignettes or anecdotes that really stand out as being particularly ones that shaped you going forward?
You're talking about my ex-military experience
Yeah,
or now in the new
your
world?
military experience. Oh, we're gonna get to your new stuff. Don't worry about that. Yeah, just talk about the
uh,
military experience.
yeah, so that stand out. I mean, they're how can I say this? Their experiences, and I'm, knowing your backstory that I know we share, where it really comes down to the loss of life of
Yeah.
your peers, which is a horrible experience. I would ever never wish for anyone to go through, but it is something that in our line of business that we were exposed to, and it's unfortunately sometimes even inevitable. So that's something that shaped me very, very much, to be able to go through this and come out of it in one piece, if you so will, mentally and physically. And that is something that taught me that there's so much more strength in your mind and in your body that you probably imagine. So one of the things that I try to relate to my peers here is, even if it's like it seems the end of the tunnel, it's just like a little piece on the whole road, and it is really just to put pressure through it. Have the grit and the mental stability to just push through it. It will end. I always joke, it's like there's always sunshine at the end of the rainstorm, right?
Yeah.
So it will change. Going through this, having the mental stability and strength to go through that, that's what I took away from these experiences that were gruesome and horrible, but
Yeah.
it made me a better man.
I'm 100% with you, and it's obviously, I think veterans wherever they're from have a common bond, whatever country you're from, even if you're, on the other side. In certain cases, like military officers have a bond. I
Yeah.
totally agree, and I think it gives you perspective. I think it gives you an ability to stay optimistic when the chips are down. And the thing that I find myself guilty of all the time is like impatience, right?
Yeah.
Because you saw how it would happen to some of your buddies, and how how perishable this life is, and so you just want to get after it. So I imagine those translate pretty good if you're a founder, right? Like, because you're gonna get it done.
Very, very much so. But I agree 100% with you. Impatience is one of the things, yeah, I have to deal with like on a daily basis. If I'm waiting for an answer, it's like, why can we not? We need to just move forward. I just want to move forward. I
That's
want to
right.
bring this mission to an end. One of the last thing that just came to my mind, one of the things that I miss often is, the camaraderie,
Yeah,
the intrinsic like connection, as you put it, that we have amongst
yeah.
soldiers, and sometimes yeah, I miss that.
Heartfelt thanks for sharing that. So let's talk about what happened after that. Tell us about your transition and how the heck
Mhm.
did you end up in this crazy thing called crypto?
Yeah. So I logical progression after my military service, I open up a marketing firm, as you do, right? So that clearly. So a little bit of background: my mom is in government, so she was a warden for the largest female prison in our area. So she's an
Wow.
amazing, very, very lovely woman, and it's incredible when you meet her. You would never think that she's like the at the same time just commanding women around in the prison. But so she did that. So that was kind of like my government side that I grew up with, and my dad was always a PR manager and then turned journalist. So I had like this whole passion for communication and also marketing basically in my blood. So for some reason my former wife back then, we decided then to open up a marketing firm and start our own career in our own entrepreneurship. And so that really kicked it off. We started in Berlin, successfully expanded the company or the firm in Germany, and then expanded it to New York. We had an opportunity there and had opened up our first shop here in New York City. And when we did that, we expanded our services also into branding. And I always had the dream of using video games as a vehicle for marketing messaging. And so I jokingly always said to people that, we want to build marketing games that don't suck. I want you to, something that you can enjoy and play on a regular basis, which is not just like a little basket where you catch some burgers and get a coupon for. So, you never play that again, but a real game on maybe one of the big platforms, consoles. So this ended up actually being our first client signing the animal rights organization PETA. And we built their first ever PlayStation game. And it became a super success. I mean, I was hoping that it would be successful anyways and believing in it, but I didn't know it would be that successful. And it really opened my eyes for the gaming industry at large. I always played video games, but I was never really into the industry. So it opened my eyes there, and that led to me opening up my first gaming studio, bootstrapped that, grew it as indie game studio with a business partner, and we built indie games for PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, Xbox. So that grew, and that really transitioned myself into that space where then after my divorce, my wife took the agency, the marketing agency, and I focused more on the gaming part. So we built that further out and focused then also with the first rise of Web3 in 2017 and 18 there. We then, or first like popular one, we then started experimenting as we got hired by another company to actually build a game for them, a proper game. It was the time of the crypto kitties of this world where it's just card exchanges, a proper game with Web3 technology. And back in the days, we managed to mint game characters from a PlayStation game to the blockchain and bring it into the same game into Nintendo Switch. So interoperability between two platforms in the same game. That was literally a game changer back then. Unfortunately, in the same time, it was the downturn of the market in 2018. So nobody cared, nobody was interested in this. So we just went back to our normal games, quote unquote. So that then just continued, and then eventually, when we formed a new company called One Earth Rising, which I'm the CEO and co-founder of now, we then saw that we have so many tools at our disposal that we build ourselves for making our games more interactive and more interesting. And then also wanted to use these tools really for providing ownership, using the learnings that we had from our Web3 exposure. And so when we looked at it, the biggest issue that we found was that, coming from a gaming space, there's many games that grow and become amazing or not, but at one point they just go away. There's many games that Epic had that they shut down just because they need to focus on Fortnite more. With that, millions of gamers are lost with nothing left because you own nothing there.
Yeah.
So that was like the biggest challenge that we wanted to tackle. And then we saw that there was an opportunity for us to get into the gaming space and provide game developers with easy to use tools that they can just deploy so that they can provide ownership without knowing anything about Web3. The biggest challenge that we saw is the learning curve too steep. We have talked too much about Web3 to make it easy to understand using terms nobody understands. And so, always going back to the simple life as a game developer, the nobody ever asked us, what engine do you build on? They just wanted to play the game.
That's
And so
right.
that's how the technology should work. It should just work in the back end, right? So when we looked at this, the NFT space was not suitable really for the gaming world from our perspective. As I'm generalizing here, but if you get an NFT and that NFT is a picture representing a game character later, you're transforming, or sorry, you're exchanging that picture into a game character, but the game character is still stuck with the game. If the game goes away, you're back at the beginning where we started. Everything is gone. You've owned nothing, and you've just own this little picture that doesn't give you anything. So what we built here and patented is what we call ownable game assets. And that's really where our journey then started, of getting deeper and deeper into the matter, where all the files, all the information that a game engine needs really to properly bring these characters to life is captured into one file, and you as a gamer own that character no matter where the game is, if the game is still alive or not. So that's the journey, how we got into this whole mess. And now we want to make it more approachable for specifically the Web2 market, and start not talking so much about the tech and more talking about the utility.
Wow, so much to unpack. Incredible story. The first thing, I think a lot of listeners, they understand games, they love playing games, but I don't think a lot of them understand the business of gaming.
Yeah,
We as investors know that it's at least a $200 billion TAM. Um, and like maybe you can just say a little bit about how you see the business of gaming as being distinct from like just playing games.
100%. I mean, obviously, the business of games is associated with gaming for sure. It's the one part that makes a lot of this tick. However, there is a lot to unpack when it comes to building a game, right? So, and as time progressed, it became more and more complicated to build games. So the first thing I want to say is, like, it comes down to the developers there to create a great game. And so along the lines in the journey of Web3 specifically, that was kind of lost for a moment here, because it needs to be a good game in order to function properly. So that means you have to attract a crowd that likes to play your game, not for the reward, but for the game itself. That should be your number one driver. And that requires a good bunch of different technology pieces. Meaning, back in the days, you would code everything yourself. Now we have engines called like Unity, for example, or Unreal, the main engines games drive on or run on. And so these tools, similar to what you have now with Squarespace or Wix, and these tool sets to make it easier to build tech pieces, are available for developers and help to reduce the pressure of learning all the things around the actual game development here. So along those lines, there's more and more that came on to the market. Live ops through battle passes, infrastructure development. Now add blockchain and smart contracts and NFT. All of this, marketplaces, user accounts, all of this on top. So it really, you can see how it takes more and more chips away on the actual core element when people get into game development, is that they want to build a great game.
Yep.
So our approach was exactly to take away from this pressure, offer them a one-stop shop where they can turn their games around and pick the tools they want to use to make all the live ops, the user accounts, the marketplaces happen, but really also allow them to focus back onto what's most necessary to create a great game. And you can imagine, although this might be unpopular with many speculators, but I'm not a big play to earn fan, because it's just, it's paying people for playing your game. So that makes them employees, not really fans. So it's undoubtedly, Axie Infinity and Co. had great success with it, made a ton of money with it. So, I'm not bashing them at all, because that's a use case. It's just not a sustainable one, right? For long-term success, we need to go back to the game development itself, and that mostly driven by hits. So we decided for ourselves, this is too much of a gamble. It's too much of a hit play, so to speak. So let us focus on the next gold rush, which we see in Web 2 moving over to Web 3, providing ownership models, accepting or participating in secondary markets, and provide the tools for that, the picks and shovels. And to that point, I had a conversation actually this morning about this. People need to still understand a lot about Web3. We all know this. But still, even the harder part for my industry, being in the gaming space in Web3, that the majority of people don't even understand gaming. And as you just put it, right? They understand the market itself. It's such a complex market. And many people still associate the gaming space with kids playing video games. The average age of a gamer now is 36 and 48% are women. So we're far away from just kids playing video games. And it's huge. It's bigger than the music and the movie space combined. So it's definitely worth to take a look at it. And on that note, we had this conversation this morning that it's really also people don't understand why would somebody like Epic, for example, open up their doors and allow for people to resell their characters or resell the skins. The simple answer is because they would make a ton of money through it. Now you play Fortnite and you have, let's simplify it, 10 different skins in there. One majority, probably 8 of them, you never will play again. You can't sell them. If you could give this to somebody who wants them because some were sold 5 years ago, you don't have access to them anymore. So they're literally rare goods. And if somebody wants them, why not sell them for $1, $10? I had somebody tell me he would pay $1,000 if he would get his hands on this once like breast cancer pink bunny character that was released there 5 years ago.
Yeah.
There's no chance other than buying the whole Fortnite account and finding somebody who has that skin.
Yeah.
So opening that door now and understanding the industry, how it works, understanding the mindset of gamers who very much are collectors and a community there. I think there's so much to gain to tap more into an infrastructure play that's in the large scheme.
On paper, what you're doing makes so much sense, right? You have a massive business, huge demographic of people. We get criticized in crypto all the time for not delivering utility. Well, this is utility. It's the utility of entertainment, right?
Yeah.
You're saying, hey, gamer, we're going to actually give you ownership over these assets and you can take them and do with them as you wish. You can sell them in secondary markets. They're yours. You earned it, whatever. Even though it sounds so perfect on paper, we really haven't seen a breakout game yet. Axie Infinity, people will say it's the first like beta play to earn, pretty bad game, but it kind of showed the concept and it proved the concept that you could earn in-game assets. Massive success at the time in the Philippines. Um, why haven't we seen a breakout game? And also, we've actually seen to the contrary. We've seen a lot of the gaming industry pushing back against Web3. It
Yeah.
feels like that's starting to slow down a little bit. But like, can you explain like it makes so much sense, but we haven't seen a breakout, and like, what's it going to take for that breakout?
Yeah. Well, it's great what you're describing here is basically the perfect storm in a negative way and negative sense. So let me address the gaming side of things first. So developing a good game takes a lot of time. And we are
Yeah,
speaking about like, in the best way, 2 years
yeah,
up to 5 years. I mean, look at what's it called? Cyberpunk or the latest GTA 6 now. So this was 8 to 10 years in the making. This is a lot of time,
yeah.
that this takes. So there is a lot of risk associated with that also. And but I'll address that point in a second. The first thing is now it took time to develop these games. Now we have a slew of really great games that are about to be launched, including partners like ours, Shrapnel, triple A first-person shooter game, similar to that, Off the Grid by Godzilla. There is My Pet Hooligan. That is a super cool and cute game. Champions Ascension by Playlabs. There's a bunch of really, really great games that are about to be launched after a long time of development. So, and the way they're using Web3 is entirely different to the first iterations of the gaming world. So when the first games on the Web3 games came out, many of them ran them on the blockchain, and many of them had too much use of blockchain or Web3 elements here. So it was kind of like the figuring out stage, what works, what doesn't work, right? And let's not forget, I mean, this is brand new technology that has not been around for a long time and is being iterated constantly and improved constantly, right? It's like Swiss or like the latest ERC protocols that allow you now that NFTs can own other NFTs. I mean, it's just mind blowing what you can do with that in a gaming context. So now take that, all this information, and bring this even back, comparing this to the .com bubble. When that burst, everybody was saying, "Oh, the whole internet is a scam," right? So there's a lot of trust issues on top of that. So first, we'll see soon the first real games that use Web3 properly. And when I say properly, they use it for verification of ownership, right? Boom. This is what it's made for, basically. This data is yours. You paid for it, you earned it, whatever the case may be, and you should own it. And you can do whatever you want with it. You can sell it, you can give it to your buddy, whatever you wish you can do. So that's the key element of it. That we accept this in any other market, or we expect it in any other market, but we kind of like don't care in the gaming space, although it was the standard, right? If you bought a game and a DVD on a cartridge at Best Buy or GameStop, you owned that. You could do whatever you wanted with that. And then gradually and slowly it became a digital world, and we lost everything. So we're just bringing this back. This is not really asking for much. We're just bringing the status quo back. So now the problem with the game studios, as I said, the development of games is tremendously long, and you have budgets between 100 million to 700 million dollars. I mean, it's insane. So the room for testing out new stuff and see if it works, there's not a lot of appetite there, right? There's a lot of risk developing these games, and you've seen this also. Battlefront is the best example, or Call of Duty. One of my game developer friends says, like, there's a lot of pew pew but no new. It just iterates the same stuff over and over and over. And the communities are complaining their ass off. They're complaining constantly about this, that there's nothing new, it's just the same thing, just a new story. No. But of course, they're still buying it. So anyone in this world, Activision Blizzard, would be insane to reinvent this. Why would they kill their cash cow? And they will milk it until the end and then see, come up with something new. So that's one of the biggest issue that we have faced. You saw Ubisoft coming out with an NFT launch. They very much ill prepared their followers. There is a lot of lack of knowledge and lack of education that we have to take the shot at this. We have to take responsibility for this, we as the industry, because we made a really bad approach to actually educating the consumers about Web3. It opened the floodgates for rug pulls, for scammers. And so everybody now thinks of Web3 in general or NFTs as a scam, right? That will change, but that's the mindset right now. And only with good utility, with good games, with good projects, there will be something new coming out. And frankly, when the downturn came in the market, the bear market came, we were very happy about this, although it doesn't sound like this should be the case, but it really washed out a lot of the bad actors that just couldn't get their project off the ground because they were crap, right? So it leaves the good ones. And from our perspective, I don't need 10,000 people paying $200 for a game character. I need 2 million paying $1. This needs to be a mass market product. So those are the main issues here, really, time to development and the market perception. In the background, we know this from PlayStation, we know this from so many other big companies. They're all looking and filing patents left and right regarding NFT development, crypto development, etc. So they all know this is the future. They're just waiting for the moment to kick it off.
Yeah, so it sounds like we need a much better user experience, and to do that, we need infra. And so that brings me to One Earth Rising. Can you give us a little bit more specifics about your company? Like, you talked a little bit about what you're building. Maybe put some more detail around that, and would love to learn a little bit more about your company.
Absolutely. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. So one of the biggest issues that we saw, as I mentioned earlier, was that the NFT world in itself, so to speak, the technology, how it's applied now, doesn't really work for gaming in the sense of how we understand ownership and really properly allowing people to take their assets out of the game. So that was the first thing we tackled with our ownable game asset technology. So what we basically built is a process that is not a new standard, and I cannot highlight this enough. It is so important in our industry because historically nobody's willing to agree on one simple standard. So one of our advisors put this in a nice way, where he was the chairman of the ESA, and he said, like, well, I don't know if can I swear on this podcast?
It said you can say whatever you want.
All right, perfect. So he basically said, like, we couldn't agree on shit. It was like everybody did their own thing. And so they were basically, I mean, that's why we have Xbox and PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, and we have, UBX, yeah, we have FBX, and we have GLTF, we have all these different file standards. So very important was we couldn't build the new standards because nobody would apply or adhere to that. What we built is a container system. That container system can wrap around any existing standard. So the important part here is that with that can retrofit existing games, all the files, all the characters that they already built, we can turn them into Web3 assets like that. And the other part is that you, as a game developer, you don't need to change your system. If you use Maya, Blender, whatever you use in your development process, you can continue developing using the same technology, and then just take the files, the output files, and put them into the proper environment here into our creator portal. So whatever tool they use, they can continue using that, and the output files will then be wrapped up in our container through our creator portal, and then it becomes a Web3 associated with a smart contract and a blockchain. Then it becomes a Web3 asset, and you can then put it into any game, drop it however you want. So that's really the path to success to the Web3 world. So that's what we built, paired with a bunch of other tools that allow us now to be the first and only ones on PlayStation, for example. We created more than 120,000 user accounts now in our test environment, because also people don't really know, not in a malicious way, we don't hold anything back from them, but the technology just works in the back end, so they don't really know that Web3 is involved. And we think that this is the best way forward to deploy Web3 technology in the broader sense.
So, what's it like being a co-founder? What's it like being a CEO? Can you talk about your role and responsibility, and how it works day to day?
Yeah, oh, it's a lot. It's a lot of everything, right? So it's literally just the day starts in the morning. So I was the CEO of my marketing firm, so
Yeah.
I got a little training there, and then the gaming firm, and now I'm getting better at it as I go, obviously through these different experiences. So the biggest challenge that I had starting out, when that was like more on the marketing firm side back in the days, was or organizing my day properly. So I didn't really know what was getting myself into, and so there's so many things you need to take care of as being the co-founder and CEO, and depending on how big, or if you even have a team, how much you can delegate, etc. So my recommendations for people also starting out as new entrepreneurs or co-founders or whatever it is really to find a structure, and b having the ability and training as soon as possible to delegate all the tasks. Where somebody's there that is better at it, just give them that. Have a good separation of tasks, and make sure that in the end of the day you're just like have accountability and responsibility for different tasks. So going back a little bit here to falling back to the military training, but the most important thing for me, the game changer literally, was structuring my day, where back in the days I would wake up, look at my phone, see a bunch of emails, start answering them, and then basically I blinked twice and it was 8 o'clock in the evening and I still was in my pajamas. I was like, damn, what happened? So that repeated itself many times, and I just knew this wasn't healthy. And so my routine now is I wake up, military, like very early in the morning, 5 or 6 o'clock, hit the gym, work out, do my workout, come back, meditate if I can, and then do my food, cook my food, prepare my own food, watch the news, do my me time until most of the time 10 o'clock, until it's really necessary. I try not to take any meetings before. And then it's on, right? From 10 until in the evening, whatever happens, I'm free and making my time, myself available for that. But then also going to bed early, obviously, when I wake up that early. I personally don't drink. That helps a lot also. So it's, all of the good things combined there, and that helps me to get through my day better. But apart from that, it's something I feel like obviously you can learn anything, but it's something that is in you. If to become an entrepreneur, to do something yourself, you will probably feel that. And there's no value to either being better or worse. There's people that are extreme, that accelerate by executing on their highest level the orders that were given to them, or co-created them. But is that like one person that has the final say or takes responsibility over the final decision? So I'm very comfortable with that. Some are not. So
Yeah.
this is where you find also better your position in the hierarchy. And if I say hierarchy, I don't necessarily
Yeah.
mean it. There doesn't need to be one. It can be very flat. But it's like, what is your best foot thing that you're good at, and accelerate in that. And that can be the CEO. This is very much a visionary position where you think a lot of like pie in the sky. I I refer to my business partner Bronson as one of the best COOs I've ever had. I refer to him, he's the Riker to my Jean-Luc Picard. He's just incredible because yeah, he grounds me, right? So I sometimes like go here and like, oh, we can do it. Yeah, sure, but let's focus on this here first. Like, yep, all right, perfect. And he challenges me on a daily basis also. And so we kind of like the yin and yang that in the middle
That's great.
form the perfect circle.
That's fantastic. Do you have any advice that you'd give to a transitioning vet? I mean, you have a crazy transition story. What advice would you give them?
Yes, it's definitely my own experience gave me the advice that be aware that moving out of the military, and I have a personal story that relates to that, was the biggest challenge that I faced was my own naivete to think like, okay, you are now the in okay the brotherhood that we had, or sister, the common, what's the overarching term? I'm playing my German
Community.
card.
Yeah, I hear you. I know what you're talking about.
The community here, that's where my mindset after 13 years was like, hey, you can serve next to a former uh, felon, right? Or somebody who's a butcher, and you have a Harvard degree person on the other side. But all of us are together. We are all of us together in the mud, and everybody has each other's back.
Yeah.
That is not the case in the quote unquote real world, in the civilian world. There's much of backstabbing happening. There's some other people trying to overcome you in their career path, etc. So that's not to say that everybody is an enemy out there, but it's to say that be careful, or have that in mind with any step that you plan it with that in mind, and not be too vulnerable to exposure of your operation, right? And so that's one of the biggest challenges that I faced very early in the beginning of my career, and overcame. And that's something that I teach everybody who comes out of the military space, to just have that in mind. And then the other thing is, like, depending on what branch you served in, right? We always joke like Marines, etc., very much straightforward thinking, like Air Force a little bit, yeah, hey, how you doing? And so it's a little bit of a different mentality. So based on that, depending on what you want to do, you might just have to kind of like loosen it up or straighten it up a little bit, and finding your right place in society there.
Yeah, I agree. And look, one of the things that I've found is that if you surround yourself by good people and you network, it
Yeah,
helps you overcome some of the negative sides of working in the civilian sector. So, networking
100%.
matter. It's super important. Cool. Um,
It's, if I may add one little
yeah,
thing, it's one of the things that I highlight the most is your the leadership training that specifically us as officers got
yeah,
in the military is beyond anything I've experienced so far with the majority of others that just went
yeah,
through business. There is definitely a degree of great leaders out there that have never seen military service,
yeah.
no doubt. But what we have gotten through our training already has cannot be underestimated. That is already a great start, and you should lean into that. And then also, as you said, surround yourself with great people.
Yeah.
Try to be the stupidest person in the room when you have your meetings, right? So have great people around you that know more than you.
Thank you, Jean Luc. Excellent points.
My
Are you hiring?
friend.
You guys hiring at all?
Not yet. So it's very soon, hopefully. We are in the last piece of our pre-seed round.
Yep.
So we are just a team of four right now. So with that, we actually plan to hire and open up an office, open up another subsidiary here where we have the focus on development. So junior developers, etc. Those are our higher goals, and we want to hire them to actually onboard the new people that want to use our tech. So our demand pipeline is pretty packed, so we need more support on that front, and that's, as soon as we close out the pre-seed round, we want to start hiring and bring people on board.
Amazing. Jan, how can people connect with you?
So the easiest part here to connect with me is either on LinkedIn. I'm Jan Roessner, JanRessner. So very much my name. And so that's straightforward there. I'm very responsive on LinkedIn. Just also luckily got the badge of the voice of Web3 voice here on LinkedIn. So
Nice.
I'm active there. And also looking for supporters on LinkedIn to help create more educational content about Web3 here, as we need that very much. And then Instagram also, Jan Rosner, same thing. Otherwise, also my email, jan@oneearthrising.com. And that's Jan with a J in the front. So yeah, all of these paths are the best. I'm not on Twitter. It's
Really?
interesting.
You're in
Yeah, I know.
crypto, but you're not on Twitter.
I
Interesting.
know, I know. It's so weird, right? Like get a look at it, it's like I don't know, I never got into it, and I never cracked the code on it. So now it's kind of like I feel like it's past. But hey,
Maybe
maybe you can teach
Farcaster then.
me.
Eh, Awesome. Well, I think you did the German veterans community very proud. It was an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be on here, and thank you for having me so much. It's
Excellent.
great what you're
And
doing here.
thank you. And we'll get it out here shortly. And I also want to thank Luca for their ongoing support and sponsorship. Rudy and the team, we really appreciate you. And see you next time. Thanks again, Jan.
Take care. Take care, Chris.
Thanks.